Hi, what's up? I'm Andre from the YouTube channel Blattner Comedy, Eddie, the Blue Ranger on Power Rangers Hyperforce, and you're watching Power Rangers Action Activate.
Go guy change. Go. There's a little button. Oh, go guy change. There we go. And then hey, I'm Gazbot. This is Action Activate, and we're starting just exactly the way we should on this show. Hi, who are you?
It's morphin time. It's time force or whatever. Big dog. Yeah. Over here without a henshin device, but just using the power of friendship to get through.
Oh, that's lovely. It's not, yeah. It's you're making a joke, but it touches my heart also. So we are here to talk about Action Activate. We're here to talk about Power Rangers Dino Fury, episode 19. We're almost at the end of season 1. We already watched the Christmas episode, so I think after this, we only have 2 episodes left.
2 left, counting.
That's nuts. Go ahead. You go first.
It feels like so much has happened while nothing has happened at the same time.
Yeah, I feel like as a season, it sort of started ramping up, and it's like, here's a bunch of stuff that's going to happen, and then they went, well, now let's just do nothing about that. And it like, instead of kind of ramping up in the middle or going up and down, it sort of ramped up and then plateaued. And I'm assuming the last couple episodes are going to be like, whoa, what a crazy cliffhanger. But I mean, we're literally down to the last 2 now. Well, I'll say this about the episode, and we're going to just talk about it. I'm not going to put it up. I have my notes and stuff. I liked this episode for reasons I'll explain. And if you didn't understand that too. But I kept catching myself vacillating between 2 thoughts while I was watching it. Like, oh, that was kind of good. This is like the 3rd to last episode of the season. This is just like a throwaway episode that could have fit anywhere, and as such, it's fine. But like, we're at the end here. What are we doing? So like, panic is starting to creep in, because if the next episode is another throwaway, and then the finale is just sort of like oops, and maybe we'll get the Ultra Zord, like some like mediocre cliffhanger, I'm going to be very disappointed.
Yeah, for me, I've said this on numerous other episodes we've had, where like, I can't tell if us reviewing the YouTube content is good or bad for me liking this season, because
you mean the what do they call it? The fan universe,
expanded universe,
yeah.
Like, because I love that stuff. Mm-hmm. And there hasn't been an episode where I'm like, I don't like this, or it's just fine. Everything is good to great. Like, the worst is like, that was really good.
True. And you're right. And to be fair, though, they have 2 things going for them. One, no licensor approval, no commercials. No, they can just do whatever they want.
Yep.
And even though they have a smaller budget and they only have an episode come out every few months or years or whatever, they could put everything into that one episode. So they're making mini movies with full creative control.
Yeah.
So I agree with you, but I also understand that even the creators we love doing that, if they were given an official Saban or official Hasbro show to produce on a semi-weekly basis, it couldn't be that.
No, I get that. It's more just like, because we looked at other stuff during Beast Morphers. We had hiatuses, we had all this, but I think because it's not like we watched the season and now it's a hiatus and let's look at other stuff.
Because we're intercutting in between.
Yeah.
You might be right. And that was not the plan. We weren't going to do that.
No, yeah. It's
and
just
then
like,
we just saw some stuff coming out and we got excited that we wanted to talk about it. And then we just were like, well, let's just catch up on all this stuff. And yeah.
But part of the reason that drove that is this, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong on your end, is arguably the most bored we've been with a season. Like, there were some times in Beast Morphers that were rough, but
that I'll agree with that, but it's misleading for those that haven't watched us fully. Like, we've only reviewed SPD, Beast Morphers, and now Dino Fury as far as full seasons.
Yeah, this is our 4th full season. Because Beast Morphers 1 and 2.
Okay, yes.
SPD.
Yes, SPD, right. And then we've reviewed a smattering of other episodes and series here and there. But so, yes, out of Beast Morphers, Dino Fury, and SPD, this is the most bored I've been. I agree. But there are other seasons that I was more bored during. But I will say, though, now that I think about it, there is a certain amount of, like, some of the episodes of Beast Morphers, like Tuba Tommy or whatever, was like so bad it was like fun to like laugh at. And a lot of these, there aren't I mean, there's definitely some groaning moments from like J-Borg and stuff, but most of them are fine.
Yeah.
But it gets boring. It's almost like be worse or be better. Like fine.
Yeah, exactly. Like this episode, for example, before we dive into the plot of it, what's your initial thought / review?
I was more invested in the pop-up side of it at first. Like, oh, I don't really care about the villain of the week. This pop-up thing is kind of interesting. And
yeah,
the little jokes they were making to each other, like, I don't know, I was mildly invested in the B plot before I was invested in the main plot. And I still never really cared about the fight and the plot that Void Knight had and stuff, but I did enjoy switching bodies. And there were, for a comedic episode, which is both the A plot and the B plot were comedic, for Power Rangers, this was one of the best I've seen in a while. That's not saying it's a great episode. Certainly shouldn't be one of the last 3 of the season, but for a Power Rangers comedy episode, one of the best I've seen in a while.
Okay.
You?
I politely disagree with that statement, but I'm glad you enjoyed it. I thought, again, this is another episode where I just shrug. I was, like you, more invested in the B plot, and then by the end of the episode, forgot, oh yeah, this was the whole setup that we've done this whole time that I literally forgot about.
About the purple gems or whatever.
About the chest. About this chest that everybody was trying to get. And I'm like, there's going to be Dino keys in it. And they're like, where are the Dino keys in it? And like all this stuff. So let's officially dive in. So this episode 19, the switcheroo.
The makeover.
The makeover.
Which is weird. It's almost like they knew the B plot was the one people were going to be interested in.
Yes. I didn't hate J-Borg stuff. I actually thought it was pretty good.
I was shocked. They started at BuzzFeed and they had so many characters and setups where like, this is going to be a catastrophe. And there was one of the non-comedic characters on set was the one that tripped. And like, it was fine. It was just a setup for like, a little meet cute. And like, it was shocking to me how that didn't turn into a disaster.
And to our point of previous episodes, the first minute of this is this inconsistency that just frustrates me so bad with Power Rangers, where in 30 seconds it went, here is Buzz Blast, here's what Buzz Blast does, here is them working at Buzz Blast, and everybody being competent. You're like, what?
Being even like, don't ask ridiculous questions. J-Borg not getting some kind of weird short circuit and saying the wrong thing, but actually being a decent reporter. Although
Amelia, shoehorning in her little character trope about weird supernatural stuff, but still working. Like,
yep.
What the hell, guys? We're 19 episodes in. What the hell?
Yeah, I agree. I don't understand the inconsistency.
Yeah, I'm like, this would have made so much better plots elsewhere where it's not like, look at Jane, who in the last 40 seconds has gone through 180 degrees of temperature change and like a freaking bad CGI thing where it's like, weird. Oh, here's us working, and then there's plot.
And it's weird that they leave her out of episodes and then bring her back and feature her heavily. Like if they were just background characters like this all the time and once in a while had shenanigans, it would make more sense. But
way better.
In the beginning, they set it up like, oh, Buzz Blast is going to be really important and Jane is going to be kind of like this boss they have to deal with, like a J. Jonah Jameson or something. And like that could have worked too. But I feel like, again, we don't know the behind the scenes, but I feel like there are different writers, different producers, or some like people couldn't agree. Well, that's okay. One of two things. Either everyone cares and wants to do what they think is right, and they can't agree. And this is the positive, benevolent version of myself, where I'm like, I want everybody working on the show wants to do a good job, but they can't agree. The other side is the people in charge just don't care, and people writing the scripts aren't coordinating and don't know what was written 3 weeks ago, and like whatever, who cares? They're comedy, and I hope it's not that, but it could be that too. You know, that's the more negative side of my personality when I think that way.
So I just had a realization as we've discussed this, where obviously this is a Dino season and there's a lot of tropes that they are regurgitating from Mighty Morphin that I didn't realize until right now.
Okay.
So I'm going to go chronologically. First episode, one of the parents who's kind of a stickler, Lieutenant Stone.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah.
Jane is like Jane and Jayborg is like their amalgamation of Ernie and Bulk and Skull, but like not done well.
Ernie and Bulk. Would it be Ernie or would it be the teacher?
It'd be the Bulk and I guess.
Because it's more of an authority figure.
I guess, okay, Ernie, Mrs. Appleby, and Bulk and Skull all put together. And depending on the episode, it goes, you're goofy this episode, make no sense. You're doing your job normally. People are going to you for advice, and then you're gone for the rest of the episode.
Yeah.
So there's those.
Okay.
For like 3 episodes, we had the youth center subplot of them working out at this gym and teaching classes and stuff.
Right. Yeah.
And now here it is. It's each episode. You're like, what timeline is this? I don't get it anymore.
And how? But again, is that intentional, like homages, or is that just what works, or is that not even like just happen to work out that way? You know, who knows?
But like, my point is if it's a one-off, that's fine. Maybe even a 2-off. But it's been enough of all of these where you're like, where are you doing? What are you doing the rest of the time? Like, you've introduced so many things that either something needs to be in the forefront or don't worry about these and do like normal Ranger stuff. But then we don't get that. Then it's like, I love ice cream, and we're gonna do that scene again with the runaway cart, like we did with the stroller, and like all this stuff that I'm just like.
Here's the thing. There have been a couple seasons where they tried to like reset or go back to that feeling or era. I mean, obviously Megaforce is the main one people think of, but even Ninja Steel did it a little bit with the high school. I would even argue that Samurai did it a little bit, even though they were in a dojo instead of a school. They had Bulk and they wanted Skull, but they got Spike, and like I mean, obviously I think Samurai did it the best, but it's weird to try to go back and do that. We've talked about this before, like don't. Yeah, and maybe they're not doing consciously. You know what I mean? Maybe you're seeing these connections that they are not seeing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Also,
okay, go ahead.
Oh, I was going to say, last point is only, why am I blanking on her name? Only the Green Ranger's in school.
Izzy.
But they all are doing the same stuff all the time.
Right. Well, in the same way, only like 2 of them work at Buzz Blast, but they're all hanging out there all the time. And,
I think technically 3 of, does Ollie or no?
I didn't think Ollie did. We had this conversation last time, which brings us to like, well, it doesn't matter, because like their jobs there very rarely matter. I think Javi works there and Ollie was going to do a story with him, and but like it doesn't matter. It's inconsistent. It kind of, what it kind of reminds me of, and this might be blasphemy, but I like Turbo as a season. Like there's things not to like, but overall I enjoyed it as a season. But it reminds me of Turbo in the sense that it was like not yes, they changed. Oh, I'm sorry, not Turbo. I'm mixing them up. Turbo into In Space, but I'm thinking of the first part of In Space where
I know exactly what you're thinking.
Earth and acting like the Turbo Rangers, but then they're like going out to space, and that's when they ran into the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then like 10 episodes in, they're like, no, none of that, whatever, But like for a little while, like, what's happening? Do we care about the youth center? Who's this new person running it? Like, and Andros is telekinesis, and he's funny on. Nope, that's all. And it kind of reminds me of that, where they're just like kind of all over the place a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah, but so anyway, Pop, who we find out his name is Ed, and Beatrice have their little bump and like, ooh, this is gonna go well. And he's like, let me give a donation. And he has this little gross pocket of lint change and whatever. And then she makes a pun about meeting all the new dinosaurs, finding all the new dinosaurs, and she says, "Oh, my neck is sore." And he's like, "Whoa, oh!" And when I go to museum, I always ask, "Can I take a picture?" And they're like, "Nope, we like to leave them on the wall." Both those jokes were fine. They probably find them in like a
fit the characters well, and it's like, thanks, here you go.
Yep, all of that. Then we go to the villain base, the exterior. Have we seen the exterior of the villain base? I mean, we must have. But when I saw it, I'm like,
I don't remember or care anymore.
Yeah, I guess that's true. And then we see Void Knight. Here's a question I could have looked up but didn't. Did Void Knight? Did his voice change? it sounded different to me. And I don't know if that means they got a new actor or he changed or it's just been like 10 episodes since I've heard him talk.
And we haven't seen him unmasked again, except for that one time.
Void Knight is such a potentially great character that I just don't care about at all.
Wasted.
I don't care. And they even they even went from like this mysterious, I'm always in my lab, leave me alone, I don't care about any of you idiots, do your thing, which wasn't the most interesting character, and you kind of hoped it was going to turn into something, but it was fine. And then meanwhile, Slither's running the show, and he has his big boss. But now he's just sort of like, oh, I showed up at this fight for a second, and I'm hanging out on this throne being bored. It's like, again, the character seems to have changed since the beginning of the show.
He's like RVZ from Zio.
Wait, RVZ, yes. I did put in this episode too, he reminded me more of Zed in his like goofy, like, and Rita were like, look, oh, they're having a lottery at school. Let's use the lottery to get them. Like, what? Like, come on.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did like when Bone switched what's her name?
Slither and Mucus.
Yeah, and she's like, oh, let's see what this does. Whammo! And she slimes, and that was kind of funny. Very nice voice.
One thing about Bone Switch.
Yeah.
One of the gnarliest looking villains we've ever had.
Yeah, it's a shame because he had a cool power, but he also looked vicious. Like, I feel like they should give him that to power to a less cool looking villain, and then let him be a tough guy. But he wasn't tough at all, other than the switching stuff.
Like, he looked super beastly. Like, had like the Zed skin thing, had a Ultraman skull.
Yeah, he looked like an Ultraman villain. Yeah. I agree. So they go back to the base. And now they're talking about pop-up and they're suggesting different colors. And I did think it was funny that Javi and Ollie were suggesting the colors that are their Ranger colors, like that whole trope of like, that's their favorite color now for everything.
Yeah.
And then Zato comes in and once again points for that character because he's like, why doesn't he just be himself? Like, she liked him for who he was. Why are we trying to change that? Like, you dumb alien, He's like, oh, right, I guess you're the humans, which seems to be a common trope where he'll say something that makes sense. They'll say he's wrong, and he'll be like, I'll defer to your earth and human wisdom. And then, but they're wrong.
And then he's right every time. And he's like, yeah, I am right.
When in the next scene, the chest gets stolen and it gets dropped and they focus in like weirdly, like there were it fell and a big puff of smoke came out, which was terrible CGI.
Yep.
Why? I don't know.
Theme of the episode, terrible CGI.
Yeah, have no smoke or put like some flour. Like, it wasn't necessary and it looked bad. But then there was like a weird kind of close-up zoom. And I watched it twice. I'm like, what am I supposed to be seeing here? And obviously they want us to remember the box, I guess, which you didn't. But I didn't know what they were even zooming in on. Maybe a piece that had some of the art on it, but I couldn't even see it,
Yeah, they made a note. That box was priceless.
Right. But it had nothing. But yeah.
Yeah, so they have a fight. Everybody gets switched except for green and gold, which is fine.
Yeah. It was interesting seeing the two of them have a fight together. It wasn't an especially great fight, but it was just interesting.
Yeah, that fight I thought was good. Like, it's funny now at this point in the season, I like when the Rangers get split up more than when they're all together because like they're super OP. Like, there's no reason that like they should ever lose anything ever.
Well, they all have a personal power-up mode, and not well. They have all their keys, but they also all seem to have like one specific power-up mode. And yeah, Ion did his elect mode. Ion, I still don't care about Ion.
Yeah, he's there.
Yeah, he hasn't done anything to like impress me or win me over, other than look cool in his armor and have like a cool. Because he was doing that, and I'm like, this is cool. Why don't I care about? And I don't hate him. I just don't care.
It's like you like the Gold Ranger, you don't like Ion.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah. But and again, not that he's done anything where I really hate his guts or anything, but he's just like I hate the bag on the actor because we don't know what's going on behind the scenes. But his line delivery, he just sounds bored. Hey, I'm gonna get you with my thing. Oh, here you go. I got you. Boo. It's like, But meanwhile, the one episode where they tried to give him character development, where he was mad at Zato, he was like super passionate. He's like, "You made this mistake," and blah blah. Like, so he had this. But other than that one time, he's always just sort of like, "Hey, here I go."
Yeah, like, I don't know. It's all again one of those things where it's like the 6th Ranger beefing with the Red Ranger, a la Time Force, except that was like a 10 episode or more arc, and this one was like, "I forgive you, man."
Yeah,
You just ruined our entire planet, but I forgive you.
Well, and arguably he should have forgiven him, but like, then why was he so mad? And again, well, we're backtracking. We already covered all this.
Inconsistencies.
But he hasn't. And I'm singling out Ion because he's the new character and he was doing cool stuff, and it made me think like I should like him more. But I mean, Ollie, who I liked a lot in the beginning, has kind of gotten and like other than like Zato, who's a red, who usually isn't, like, he's the one who interests me the most.
Yeah.
And I don't hate any of them. They're all just kind of, well, except for the episodes where they make us hate them. But like, yeah, it's just weird. It's just weird.
This is one of those things where, like, I'm sorry for all these comparisons for everybody who hates them in the comments, but like, if we've talked about this almost every other episode, but if this is the last live action season of Power Rangers as we know it, instead of doing what In Space did, like you said, of we're just going to do really cool stuff and screw the formula, they're like, here's another episode where somebody wore a goofy shirt, and here's an episode where ice cream is the hero of the day, and it's like, all right.
I mean,
they're just phoning it in. It feels like.
I keep hearing from people who worked on the show, not that they've confided in me personally, but like on Twitter and like Hunter Deno and like Campbell Cooley and various people that you just see saying stuff. They all seem to be like, oh, I can't wait till I see season 2. Oh, the ending of it's going to be crazy. And I hope they're right.
Yeah.
And I hope what's happening is they said, okay, we've got whatever amount of budget and power and time, and we're going to make season 2 be this crazy blowout. And because of that, we got to make season 1 kind of vanilla and formulaic and save a lot of money. And if that's the case, all sins are forgiven, because this is not the worst season I've ever seen. It's not unwatchably bad or anything like that. It's just kind of very mediocre.
Yeah.
And if we get a mediocre second to last season, and then the last season, or even if it's not the last season, but if the like is amazing, I can live with this. But right now, if it's just more of the same, it's like take a chance. What do you get to lose? Like
the first 8 episodes were, there was like 1 or 2 we were like, but then it's like, and here's this character from Ninja Storm, and here's how it ties into this, and the comics with this, and I'm like, that's cool. And then they're like, and that's it. That's all I get.
Yeah. What do you think about the voice swapping?
I'll be honest, I didn't realize that they voice swapped Ollie and is it Chase?
Javi? No,
Javi,
Chase.
thank you.
Chase.
Okay. Maybe that's his actual name. I don't know. But I didn't know they voice swapped until later because they're so close in voice that I was just like,
so you thought only Pink and Red swapped?
At first, I'm like, did they just get lazy and not do it? I'm like, oh no, they actually did swap. I just can't tell. The thing when they do that, I mean, it's fine. I only had one gripe about it, and it's mildly jumping forward.
The pigeon.
They have all of the suits, so I don't understand why when everybody morphed differently, that like they use the same suit actors for everything.
Yeah,
that bothered me.
We're getting ahead, but I like Switch episodes where people switch bodies and stuff. Again, this one wasn't terrible, but it was a little disappointing.
Yes.
The fun of episodes where they switch bodies is usually like, I'm the sloppy one, I'm the clean one. Now we got to deal with this, or like, I'm really good at kicking, and now the guy who isn't good at kicking. Like, so it's. But there was not any.
There was nothing to overcome other than this is inconvenient.
Yeah, there was, and it made me think like, is it because the characters don't have such strongly developed traits and skills that make them so different that when they switch, it's super noticeable? Like, maybe, but the other thing is, I understand they did the voice swap probably because it's a kid show and to make it really obvious who's talking, whatever. And I'll forgive it for that reason, but generally I don't like that.
Same.
I think because it's your vocal cords didn't change, like your voice stays.
And it's more fun to see that actor try to be that character.
The reference I always go to, which isn't a great one because not everyone has seen this show, but Farscape, which is one of my favorite sci-fi shows of all time. There was a body switch episode, and it's one of the best versions of that I've ever seen. Every actor did their best to act like the actor who they were supposed to be, to the point where the main character, Ben Browder, the actor, was saying he was listening to recordings of the other actor, how they would do the lines, and then and I'm like, that's amazing. And it comes off, so I would like to have seen these actors get a chance to try to impersonate each other. The only time we saw that was when Zato had to be Amelia, and he was doing it for Pop-Up, and I could tell that the actor was reading the lines. I forget his name right off the top of my head, but he was reading the lines differently. Like when he was just in the wrong body. He was just being Zato. But then he was like, "Oh, hi, Pop Pop," and like it was really good because he was in character as Zato, pretending to be Amelia, but still like I'm an alien and I'm still kind of awkward. Like that was my favorite bit of acting that actor did because it was so. And he's the only one that really had a chance to do that when all of them should have had a chance to do that. So I feel like it was a squandered opportunity.
Yeah, there were just no stakes for it. Like nothing was going to go awry. They're like, "Oh, our job. What job? That doesn't matter." So, yeah, I'm with you on that. The date itself, I thought was cute.
The only thing I didn't. Go ahead.
Oh, you first.
The only thing I didn't like was that they gave him the cologne, and like this might attract bees, which no cologne ever made would say may attract bees, even if it did. So that was like, okay, clearly this is going to attract bees.
Yeah.
Then he went squirt, squirt, and then he went, well, I'm not worried about bees. And he went squirt, squirt. Like, why are you putting 10 pumps right in your face? Like, I'm not a guy that wears cologne, but like a few times in my life I did. You kind of put it back here, or you walk through them. Like, you don't. It's alcohol.
Or your chest.
You don't spray it in your face. Like that was weird.
Yeah.
But I was happy, which is I think what you were going to say, that it didn't end with him being swarmed by a bunch of bees.
Yes, exactly. I'm glad it was like, oh, thank God. Because that's all I needed was him going, now,
the bee was clearly CGI.
Yes.
Here's a weird question. Do you think his cup of soup was CGI?
No.
I couldn't tell. Like when he went blah and it went up, it looked so weird to me that either it was CGI or filmed at some weird shutter speed or something. Because it just, I watched it 3 times. Like, is that CGI or did it just look weird to the human eye? You didn't notice that. Okay, it doesn't matter.
What I'm glad about though is like so many times they do that trope, and then it's like, oh, the date's ruined, and the other person gets mad because there's a misunderstanding, and then they come together at the end, and she was like, no, whatever. And then he changed, and she's like, I love tools and grease.
Right. I mean,
Like,
she saw she saw what he looked like in the beginning, and that's why Zato was right. It was like, it wasn't like they met at a coffee. Like, she saw him at work, dirty, doing his thing. You know, he pulled out his handful of garbage in his pocket, and she's like, cool, man. You know, like, I also like in this scene, another good, like one of the few body switch joke moments they got was Amelia got it or whatever, and Zato in Amelia's body patted her on the back, and he's like, it's weird to pat my own back.
Yeah, I liked that too.
I liked it a lot.
Yeah. That honestly, that minute or 2 minutes was the best part of this whole episode, and that's really bad that is it.
I don't know if no, I disagree. That was not the best part of the episode.
Okay. Well, in my opinion, it was. It could change if you.
I like this episode more than you did overall. So I think I had more to like than you did. They get back to base and they realize, and this, you know, I'm sure you did too. Like right in the beginning, I'm like, oh, well, they have the wrong keys for the wrong bodies, and they figure that out. But this goes into what you were. Well, first of all, then they're like, they think they figured it out, and they go into battle. Why didn't they test that at base? Why didn't they exchange keys at base? They get there like, quick, let's exchange keys and see if this works. It did, but like.
That goes back to a thing where like each Power Ranger season like tempers this a bit, but this one, like this episode kind of ruined it, where it was like, for the most part, they morph and it takes a lot of morphin grid energy and blah, blah. And then if some reason they unmorph, they usually can't morph for a while. So that's how I usually take it. But then this episode, they unmorph immediately in the Megazord, and then they're like, oh shit.
But I got confused because they said, okay, we're going to use the different keys. And so Zato in Amelia's body morphs to pink, and for example. And so I thought, okay, he morphed to pink in her body, but he's still Zato. And she morphed to red in his body, but she's still Amelia. But then the Red Ranger spoke with Zato's voice, and the Pink Ranger spoke with Amelia's voice. And I'm like, oh, I thought this was just how they could morph, but I guess this fixed it. They didn't explain that very well, but okay. But then fast forwarding later, when the monster loses his powers, they demorph because at that point they switched back. But if that's the case, then the Red Ranger should have still had Amelia's voice. You know what I mean? Like,
no. So the voice part is fine. The physicality is where it got thrown.
Amelia in Zato's body turned into the Red Ranger and spoke as Zato.
No, Amelia is Zato's body, Amelia's voice, and Pink Ranger.
You're saying the same thing, but differently.
Okay.
I'm Zato.
Yes.
My brain gets put into Amelia's body. Now
Yes.
you're looking at Amelia's body, but I'm Zato. I'm speaking like Zato.
Yes.
Can't morph. Get the pink key because I'm in Amelia's body. Boom. Now I morphed into the Pink Ranger. But
you're mixing them. You're mixing them.
Explain it to me.
So you're different on the colors. So it was Zato's body, Amelia talking. That body, Zato's body, needs to morph into the Pink Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
The reason that was confusing is because it was clearly not gender swap for red and pink.
Right.
So the voices were right. The physicality was wrong.
So it should have looked like a Red Ranger that was a female Red Ranger.
Yes.
Okay. So, well, then if you're right, that is confusing and weird. And if I'm right, that's confusing and weird.
Yes.
I think you're probably right. But either way, it's like, well, then what they should have said then, because like how I fixed it in my head was like, oh, that just unswapped them. And I went with that until in the cockpit, they're like, now we're unswapped. I'm like, what?
Yes.
Like, so
that's why I was upset, because it should have been swapped that way.
Agreed.
And because it wasn't, it was extra confusing and made no sense. And I think it was American footage, which makes even less sense.
And again, maybe you're right. Maybe I'm right. Maybe neither of us are right. But clearly we're right that it was confusing. Now, that being said, when that's going on, Ion's like, I'm going to take care of this guy. And he goes running up and he swaps him for the pigeon. Did you hate that based on your face just now?
Here's the thing I hated about it.
Okay.
This is a common trope in Dino Fury where a villain has crazy strong power that is squandered for terrible comedic value.
Mm-hmm.
If henchmen just start trying to whack this pigeon and then everybody's got to go save him so he doesn't die, awesome. Hey, you should probably leave Pigeon Zato or Pigeon Ion body and go fly away, Ion Pigeon. Like,
yeah. I get your point. I hadn't actually thought of that. I thought where you were going with it was if he could swap their minds into other things, why switch them into another human or Power Ranger? There's bugs, there's rats, whatever. Put them all into small animals, you win. And so that's
or just anything other than themselves.
Well, anything other than Power Rangers or humans. Yeah, even another random human would be.
No,
better.
Yeah, I was gonna say just not their own team.
Yeah. So I agree with what you're saying, but I didn't mind it for the joke value of like, oh, he's a bird, whatever. What I didn't like was that the bird spoke.
Yeah.
Now going back to the different humans, how you should retain your vocal cords. Okay, fine. But they weren't like, oh, we hear you in our minds. Or he's like, guys, I'm a bird. I'm like, wow, he's a bird. Birds can't make human sounds. That can't happen. I know, but
the reason I went like this, I need to explain it.
Yeah.
If anybody who wrote the show or worked on the show is watching, I'm not saying that we could do a better job than you, and I appreciate everything you've done for Power Rangers.
But
one way this episode would have been way better is if all the side characters we saw this episode swapped with the Rangers, and then we saw Jane, Jayborg, Pop Pop, and the dad Ranger. Like, all these people had to be Power Rangers, and that would have been so much better.
You're 1,000,000% right. Yeah, 1,000,000%. Did you just think of that now, or were you thinking about that earlier?
Right now as we were talking about it, because it's like, why would they?
It's an amazing idea.
Oh,
it would have been hilarious. It would have been, it would have been like that one episode where they all got in disguises for a second.
Yes.
And we saw that would have been great. That would have been absolutely. And the civilians, because you're like, well, secret identities. The civilians wouldn't know they were Power Rangers. They just be like, oh, how are we in these bodies? But crazy stuff happens all the time. So it's not like, oh, we happen to be unlucky enough to get hit by this ray.
And then the whole time it's like, we have to take care of this monster, but we can't do it unless we get our keys. So we in the wrong bodies need to somehow get the keys and morph so the identities aren't blown and not everybody oh my God.
And then you can have your comedy by having Pop-Pop in like Ollie's body being like, I remember I used to love surfing, or doing goofy whatever, like
wow, I haven't been this young in years.
Yeah, and doing
anything. Come on, guys.
Yeah. You're right. That would have been great.
The ninja steelest point we've ever had.
You definitely get ninja. I'll give you ninja steel point.
I'm so frustrated.
I wish you didn't say that, because now we have to finish this.
I know. So anyways, they have a Zord fight that kind of doesn't matter, and everybody goes in it, and Ion's in the cockpit for whatever reason, even though his Zord's not in it. Burp derp.
I agree with all that. Now, here's the part where we might disagree. my absolute favorite part of this entire episode, keeping in mind that it's sort of a throwaway comedy episode.
Oh, okay. I know what you're gonna say.
They all do their call outs of like, T-Rex, blah, 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 tiger, and then you hear Mosa, Fury, pigeon, and Ion's just a pigeon flying. That made me laugh out loud. I thought that was really
It was
funny.
good.
It was like one of the best jokes I've seen on Power Rangers like ever. It was ridiculous and it was out there, but it fit the tone of this episode. And for that reason, I was happy he got turned into a pigeon because it was like, that was hilarious. I loved it. I loved that part.
You know what else would have been cool? Is if all of the henchmen captured Pigeon Ion and then it leads into the next episode toward the finale where stakes are supposed to be higher, that Ion is now in the base and they got to trade it for Sporix beasts and that's it. You know what? I'm quitting this job. I'm just gonna go write for Power Rangers now.
All right, you do that. I'll sit here.
I'm okay. I'm not.
Okay.
Don't worry. Don't get your hopes up.
Then I will criticize your writing. Then I will, and everyone else will too. That's
you're just gonna be my editor, and then we're never gonna create anything due to creative differences. You're gonna be like, there wasn't enough fart jokes in here.
It'd be funnier. But make him fart in his mouth. That's the funniest place you could fart, is in the mouth.
But they're in the middle of a Zord fight. I know, but listen.
Here's why I had the one cockpit up here and the other down here. That's the whole reason we did it that way.
And then the foot comes in and goes, "What about me? I smell." Anyways, off the rails, y'all. This is off the rails.
Let me see if I have any. Oh, I do like when Skull Switch or whatever his name, Bone Switch, gets his thing smashed off and he goes, "No, the source of my power and my roguish charm." I thought that was another, again, a lot of good comedy. Body Switch odd, Ion, worm in mouth, not my favorite joke.
One thing
comes up like Jurassic Park. What?
When they all do the keys and they do this like power up team attack that I feel like should have had more time and they just passively did it, they're like, "Power up smash." I'm like, that was cool. Why did you just rush that?
I agree, but I'm so used to them just blowing through random new powers like they don't mean anything that I'm like, oh yeah, sure, and okay. Like I really, I noticed that.
Attack.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay. Sure. Whatever they need to do. Void Knight shows up, gets the Sporix. Pop up. They find the jigsaw puzzle, which is like a map at the bottom of the thing, and they're like, ooh, and they have a little kiss, and great. They're a couple now. And then they go and see the Power Rangers, and then go on the theme of random powers.
I hated this part.
Like, oh, by the way, we have vision boost, so that's fine. It's like, what? Did they ever use this power before?
No, I hated it. I hated it.
All they would have to do is say, what are we going to do? And then Zolan could be like, well, Zato, we have this power, I've been working on, like a Billy kind of thing, going back to MMPR. I've been working on this thing because we've been searching for the keys, and I think it's finally ready, and maybe this can help us. What is it? It's a vision boost. Oh, okay. But it's like, oh, yeah, we had this forever. I've never used it before. By the way, it's awesome.
No, he's like, I haven't used this in forever. This is great. Yeah. I'm looking at a lot of dirt, and there's a perfectly visible key or chest with 2 keys in it, and wow, and end credits.
Early on, when they were trying to find the other keys, when the Rangers first showed up, didn't they have some kind of detector that's like, this only works if you're close to it or something like that? I remember laughing at like,
it was for the Zords, I think.
For the Zords? Okay, because I'm like, wouldn't they have detected it?
They're like, we could detect it if you're near it.
Yeah, it was something like that. So, okay, if it was for the Zords specifically, then I guess it would have detected the keys. But you'd still think they would have scanned the area with this vision scanner at some point.
Yeah,
That being said, it looked like to me like the keys were like white and black or silver and black.
I know exactly what they are.
Oh, you do? Okay. Well, that's what they look like. So we have 2 episodes left. And we don't. Here's the thing. There might be other seasons where the last couple episodes before the finale episodes aren't anything super special, but you would kind of know, like, oh, well, we know it's, like you said, you see like a little minute of the villain going, I've got the power I need now, or whatever. As far as we know, we're exactly in the same place as we were in like episode 2.
Except we have more Sporix in play. Yeah, and there's Slither. And that's it.
Yeah, there's no real clue as to what this final battle is going to be, what the big plan they're going to have to stop. Like, it's just, he's got a bunch of Sporix and seemingly wants to just cure his wife. So, like, that would be kind of crazy if he's like, I've got them all. I've cured my wife. All right, I'm a good guy now. And like, it's just what is the fight even going to be? Like, I don't know. It's very weird. And I have intentionally not like gone look, because this, full disclosure, we're watching this on Netflix after it came out. Like, so like everyone has seen this by this point. And I haven't gone looking because I don't want it to be spoiled. I want to be surprised and do these, in order. But I feel like if there was some crazy big reveal, like
When it got spoiled
it
already.
would have got spoiled, yeah. Or I would have at the very least heard people say, "Oh my god, yeah, the season was okay, but that last
Oh, at the finale, yeah.
and I've heard no one say anything even remotely like that, which worries me. Hopefully, I'm just really good at avoiding spoilers, but I don't know, man. Like, not with anything else. Not with anything else. So that's episode 19. All that being said, I would give it a B. I would give it a B. As far as being the third to last episode of the season, I'm not happy, but just judging it on its own merit as a comedic episode in this season, I give it a B. It made me laugh. It didn't make me angry.
Solid C.
I disagree. You're judging harshly because it's the end of the season. If this came out earlier in the season or the middle of the season, I don't think you'd be so hard on it.
I'm judging it harshly because this is like the 5th one in a row that I've gone. This is just whatever.
Yeah, well, I agree with that. That's what I'm saying. I'm trying not to judge it against where it's placed. I'm just saying as an episode, as a comedic episode, which Power Rangers traditionally doesn't do that well, it did, you know.
Here's the thing, though, and this is the reason it's so low. A, the episode wasn't great. That's why I gave it a C. B, we have to keep in mind that when we have one-off episodes, they're supposed to be one-off. They're not supposed to be 6 or 7 episodes in a row where nothing progresses.
I agree, but I'm not holding this episode responsible for those decisions about how to organize the show.
Part of me wants to look at whatever, like, in place of previous seasons, like, compare this number 19 episode to, like, just across the board, and everyone.
I know for Beast Morphers it would not stack up. Well, actually, that's not true. I know that's true for season 2, but I don't remember what. Yeah, I don't know. We'll see what happens next week. What are we doing next week?
Bloodline.
Next week, we're going to take a break from Den of Fury, go back to Indie Toku. We're going to do Bloodlines of the Grid, and then the week after, we'll be back with episode 20. So we'll see how we feel then. But until then, I have been Gazbot.
Big Dawg Defender. And
to the power.
See y'all later.
Here's the credits. I just wanted to say that I have nothing to say over the credits this week.
I am in solidarity, staying silent during the credits as well.